All right, let's try another one of these. Imagine for a moment a hotel on the beach in Cancun. What does that building look like? What's its shape? Why does it look like that? Isn't it weird? We actually can, from afar, have an idea of what that building is going to look like. Now, it might have a lot of specifics to it, but my bet is that it looks something like, there's my exit stair, there's my corridor, I'm giving it a little arc just to give it a little design. There's my other exit stair. There's all the units that get the good view towards the water. There's all the units that get the lesser view that they don't make as much money on towards the lagoon. And that's our project. Why? Because if in a panic, I am somebody who's in a hotel room, so I'm in this room, and I go into that corridor, it shouldn't matter which way I go. If I go this way, I should get to that stairwell, that safety that I can then get down out of the building from. If I make a different choice and I go this way, I should be able to get to this stairwell and get to that. If I decided to add on and make this building much, much larger and add a bunch more of these units, and I had a situation where there wasn't a stair down at the end, then this would be referred to as a dead-end corridor. Because what that's saying is I go this way, and maybe it's a panic, right? And there's smoke and there's alarms going off. It's very confusing for people. And if they happen to run by this stair, didn't realize that they had passed it, they would have to go all the way down to the end before they'd realize that they had gone by the stair, and then would have to come all the way back. Well, that's a recipe for having a trouble, fainting from smoke inhalation or something. There's usually limits to how far that dead-end corridor can go. The sort of classic one that's used on the exam most is a 20-foot limit to the dead-end corridor past the stairwell. But it actually, in the IBC and in other codes, it gets a little more complicated. It has to do with not only there being a dead-end corridors or a limitation to how far that can be, but that limitation expands if the building is sprinklered versus if it's not sprinklered, and there's a few other issues as well. So it gets a little complicated, but that basic idea is going to set up how this building is built. We know immediately that we're not going to have a hotel that doesn't have egress as one of its main concerns. Hotels are filled with people who don't know the building well. It's not like it's a single family house or something like that, where the expectation is once you've been in the house for a while, you understand the house, you would be able to figure out how to get out of the house. You would understand if there was a problem, what you would do, what you would need to do to be able to get out in an emergency. But a hotel room, the expectation is there's a lot of people there. There's a lot of things going on that are going to create different situations. People are having parties. There's events. There's things happening. There's a lot of things that could go wrong, and all the people who are there don't know the building. So the expectation is that it's set up in such a way that it doesn't matter what stupid mistake you make. Anybody will make a mistake in a panic. That's what the panic means. That's the definition of a panic, is that people make stupid mistakes. So the fire alarm goes off, people make a stupid mistake, it doesn't matter, they should still end up in that stairwell and be able to get to safety away from the building. So the point of this is to realize that while there's a lot of ways that design can work in the world, there are certain base ideas about egress, about the relationship of an occupancy to a material type, those kinds of things, that those are sort of base ideas that will be the true kind of everywhere, and that you can foresee those and know them to be true. So our example here is that there's our rooms all lined up on the corridor with then the stair on either end. That's the same idea as something that's oriented like that with a stair at each end, because as long as I go in one direction, I get to a stair. If I go into the other one, I get to a stair. If I go the other direction, I get to the stair. So there's only a few different patterns that are going to work, and it's always going to put that stair at the end. And that's because we just know that to be the case. Egress in a hotel, it's going to be the driving force of the whole thing. Now, people will design hotels in order to sort of fake that out so you don't see it as easily, but you know it's there. And it has to be there, because if it wasn't, how would people be safe in that situation? So always remember that there are these base ideas about how people are going to be safe, There's always going to be two ways to get out of a space, two ways to get out of the building, out of the floor, unless there are very specific requirements met. So there's a few examples where that's not true, but almost all other examples, there's going to be two ways to go, because if you happen to be going towards where the fire is, you need to be able to turn around and go the other direction. And that those things will be sort of hold true pretty universally. And you can always find that element when you're thinking about it from a design standpoint, or when you're doing a review, or when you're doing whatever it is that you're trying to bring the project forward with. You know certain things about the project before you even have to start.